Hello and welcome to Not All Fire. I'm Jude Evans,
And I'm Joe Hart.
and yes, the amazing duo is back again.
There we are.
Um, just to throw Joe out, we're changing the start a bit slightly. We're going to give you a brief overview of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to discuss recent wildfire research. We're going to discuss some of the training courses, some of the training courses that you previously delivered last week, where you did some of the fire engineering courses, which covered B4 and B5. I've got some questions about that. We're going to talk about some of your future courses. You're doing some new FRA courses yet again, because again, everything has changed. And also, you're going to tell me and all of our listeners and viewers all about your International SFPE WUI Fire Engineering Summit. So that's the Wildfire Urban Interface Summit, the intersection between wildlife and urban interface fires and fire engineering. And we're also, if we have time at the end, we're going to talk about construction errors in building and how we try and solve those errors when we find out that people have built it wrong. It's not going to pass building control, and who is going to insure it and who's going to cover the costs for any remediation works.
Oh my goodness me. How long's this episode?
45 minutes, same as they all are.
My word, we better talk fast, because I also forgot I'm going to talk about carpets. It might not happen this week, it might be next week, but we've got so much to do, right? My word.
I know.
That's
Well,
what
I've not
happens.
seen you for ages. We have to say, obviously, a massive thank you to Emily Harbottle, Melissa Fazaki, Nikki from Ansi Horn, who I absolutely mispronounced her company name just now, Brent Brooks, Carrie Good. So we've had some really, really good guests on helping us out with the podcast over the summer. It's been really nice.
Amazing. Thank you so much to those guys as well. It allowed me to have a summer off to go and do a few other bits and pieces that I'll update you on today, and some stuff I won't, but most stuff I will. But yeah, I've been mega busy, so it's been nice too. I have been listening in though, so well done to everyone coming and being involved, and to you, Jude. It's been lovely. Show
I
ticks
have to
on.
say, we're going to talk about it now. For those of you who are watching and wondering why Joe is sat in semi-darkness, what did you do to your laptop, Joe?
Gravity, because it fell out my hands and smashed on the floor. So my camera is broken. So I've got this weird kind of corona around me, this like black shadow. And I think what might happen is during the episode, it's just going to close up until there's just a tiny dot. It looks a bit like the the intro to a Bond film at the minute, where it looks down the barrel of a gun.
The barrel of a
Um,
gun.
so yeah, my camera's
That's quite
not
funny.
at its best, sadly. And my desk's also really messy. I've realised when I've set up, I've got scribbles on my whiteboard and everything. I'm
Yes,
out of practice, Dude. That's what's happened. I need to stick around more, don't I?
you do need to do something. We're also going to say, I'm going to take a moment for myself and all of our listeners and viewers to wish you a very happy birthday for Thursday.
Hey, thank you, Jude. I will
You're
accept you
welcome.
singing. We can block out the next 30 seconds of the show for you to sing. I'm ready. Go ahead.
I am absolutely not going to sing. I'm far too tired to sing today. I have been at very many construction sites trying to make people do things right.
Yeah,
Um,
fair enough. Well, yeah, no, thank you to everyone in my team today who was bringing cards in and gifts and stuff. It's my birthday when this show goes out. So yeah,
on Thursday.
thank you very much.
Nice. So I think the first thing we should talk about is Maryland,
Mm,
the
let,
US of A.
let's do Maryland. Yeah, well, so I've been on my travels, haven't I? I've been out and about, been
You and
over to the
Catherine?
States. Me and Catherine popped over to we had a good trip, because we were at a conference in Washington, D.C., just outside at the University of Maryland, which was the SFPE's WUI Summit. And we were presenting
Is
some of
that
our
how you
work.
pronounce it? Wooey.
Well, the Americans certainly do. So we'll go with that for our American
We
audience.
won't offend
Um,
anybody on the podcast anymore.
no. WUI or WUI, however you want to say it. WUI's a bit easier to roll off the tongue, but it was the WUI Summit that we were calling it, the Wildland Urban Interface. So I was there presenting with my colleague Catherine a couple of our research papers, and we spent 3 days at this amazing conference. So we did loads of networking, loads of everything that happens at a conference happened, loads of amazing talks. One of the talks was the best talk I've ever seen at a conference, I think.
Wow.
There's been just some amazing stuff, and we had tours of the labs at Maryland. If anyone's ever watched, and it happens every year at Christmas, the University of Maryland put out a video of Christmas trees, and you guess the heat release rate. It's like a little thing that happens in
Oh, wow.
the industry every year. It was that lab, and we got a tour of it all, and that we're on campus for a few days.
Oh, fun.
But because of the way it worked out, we were really lucky that the conference was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think it was. So we flew in the Friday before. So we got a weekend in New York. We were kind of there as tourists, which was lovely because we wanted to sort the jet lag out before we're presenting. But then after the conference, because it's wildfire season and because the work we were presenting, we flew on to Los Angeles to do our next fieldwork trip because we're due to go next month anyway. So we thought we might as well pull it forward a couple of days, a couple of weeks, and go straight from there. So as a trip, it was fly to New York, a couple of days, go to Maryland, which is in Washington, D.C., or the Maryland campus.
Where is Washington, D.C.? Is that near New York? Is that on the right-hand side, the eastern side of the country?
Yeah, in fact, we got a train from New York City over to Washington, and it was like 4 hours. So it's not. I mean, relative scales in the UK to America is different. 4 hours is a short commute to them, but yeah, it's not too long. It is over on the east there in Maryland, and then a 5-6 hour flight over to LA to just continue the work we've been doing.
That's a bit further to go over the other side.
Yeah, LA was fun though. Doing some field work. Got up to Runyon Canyon again, over to the Palisades. Yeah.
So does that mean you're not going to go out next? You're not going to go out next month now. You just brought it forward and you've done it this month.
So that was the kind of summer visit. Yeah. So we'll see if we can do a winter one because we're doing this seasonal thing, and what we actually start now in just a couple of weeks' time. No, a couple of weeks. I forget. We only did it yesterday. Sometime this year, back end of September or something. I don't know.
September next week, guys.
Well, yeah. Okay. So it is actually. It is in September, I think. We start this 12-month survey here in the UK, and what we're interested in for some of our work is the seasonal variance in plant life and how it affects wildfires. So we've identified a place just outside London, near Windsor, where we're going to go and do our UK field work, the same work we've done in LA.
Is it Runnymede?
It is, but it's not far from Runnymede, but it isn't Runnymede itself. We wanted somewhere
I lived around that area, so I know that area really well. I used to cycle around the area when I ran pubs. Yeah. So I lived in Slough and ran pubs all over Slough, Maidenhead, Windsor. I was actually in pub in Windsor for 6 months in 2000 when I was a relief manager for the brewery. So I know that, and I used to cycle around the area, sort of between Slough and Chertsey and sort of all over the shop there. So
well, we've kind of finished our LA work now, and we're moving on to do a UK trial, and we're going to do 12 months where we go and do seasonal surveys of plant life and kind of check to see the wildfire risk, how it changes throughout the year.
Are you going to do that in your own forest as well?
Well, no, because basically there's a certain criteria that we wanted to hit. So there's certain plant life, certain location,
deciduous rather than sort of forest, that kind of thing.
And we want it to be a kind of natural environment, not a
man-made forest.
Yeah, not one that's
farmed forest. Yeah,
exactly right. Yeah, but we also wanted it to be close to. Oh, and I've just written a piece on this. I'll tell you about that in a sec. A piece of critical infrastructure. So it's very close to Heathrow Airport.
Heathrow, yes.
Yeah. You can't really miss Heathrow, can you, in that part of the world?
No, you really can't. The planes are a pain for anybody living in sort of a 50-mile area radius, I think, to that area.
Yeah, I put 150 of them door guards in. You know, that hold doors open, and every time there's a loud sound, they go off and shut the doors right in the flight path of Heathrow. So like, we did twice a minute, they all went off and every bloody door closed. We were fuming.
Yeah, we did a primary school in Windsor, and we'd suggested door guards, and then an A350 or something flew overhead, and it was just like, oh yeah, that's not gonna that's not gonna work.
But yeah, we wanted this critical infrastructure nearby, so we've identified this site just outside Windsor. We're going to do the work coming up. I think September's the first walk for the late summer. It's actually the last day of summer, which I think is end of September. And then we do a winter walk, and then spring, and then autumn, and then winter and spring. And I've just written a piece yesterday for the SFPE journal, which is going to come out in a couple of weeks' time, about the wildland urban interface and how it works with infrastructure, which I'll tell you about when we talk about WUIs in a bit. So yeah, I've been that was a couple of weeks out of the country, and then you come back and I think, I hope the world's been kind and my inbox is already empty for me and I've got nothing to do, and then it's the last couple of days of the month and I'm smashed with work again. But
I mean, I will say
for research, which has been nice.
I will say I knew that you flew back last week or the weekend before last week. I think you were flying back around so I recorded with Brent on a Sunday, Brent Brooks from Canada on a Sunday because time zones. It's only 4 hours New Brunswick, so it's not actually too bad, but it still meant that he was morning and I was afternoon. And I think you were flying back around that time because on the Monday Chris was at your my fire engineer Chris was at your site doing the level 4 fire engineering. And according to him and Kirsty and everybody else there, you and Catherine were very jazzed.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Catherine. She wasn't in the training centre. She was just at home. But I was about 11 hours after having flown back from a whole trip in LA in a classroom saying, "Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's course." Whilst matchsticks held my eyes open, and I managed to drag myself through 4 days of teaching, which is actually our level 5 fire engineering.
Apologies,
diploma.
level 5. Not it's because I've been talking about today is different courses for different levels for different people. So you're right, it's level 5, not level 4. My apologies.
But yeah, no, so I flew back, and then I flew back on the Sunday, and I was straight back on the Monday into the classroom, straight back into it. I handled it. It was all right.
Chris said,
Chris said
that the day that the guys from Lancs Fire and Rescue did the training all day, that was really, really good.
Yeah, well, we've got so what did we do? We did Unit 7 and Unit 8 of our diploma. So Unit 7 is external fire spread. Unit 8 is facilities for fire service. I wrote, we've done this before, haven't we? But I wrote this level 5 diploma, and it's built around the functional requirements. So we've just finished a full
B4
cohort,
and B5.
And it's B4 and B5, makes sense. You start B1, you work your way through. But for B5, we have this thing, it's like a double header. So it's a 2-day unit, the B5 one. The first part is fire engineering for firefighters, and the second part is firefighting for fire engineers. So on the first day, the guys got, we had the kit here, so you put.
I have seen the photographs. Yes, I have seen the photographs.
The calendar shoot that happened at my head office. So
very
put the fire kit on. We opened the hydrant. There's a hydrant outside, so we just popped that open. We run hose up the stairs. We simulate a fire in our building, which is always good. We have like a proper incident ground, and we run through the whole thing. And the guys get to do that, and they all get hot and sweaty. And you know, an engineer having worn fire kit, you engineer buildings different. So we did that, and then the second day, we kind of designed the building using the calcs that sit behind it, using 7974. So it was that worked really well this time. It was great. It's always a bit of an unknown when you've got people running fire hose and stuff, whether they're going to enjoy it. But this group were a really good group. It's nice. The dogs were running around going mad. They don't like firefighters, it turns out. They don't like.
Chris did say that both the dogs were there this week. Yeah,
they were very much there this week. The dogs, sadly, in the classroom. But yeah, so I went straight into teaching. It was a pleasure to have your man in the classroom as always, and it was a nice. It's the first run where we finished every unit of the level 5 diploma. So we go back now to teaching week 1, and we cycle back through, and every month we run a unit. So yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, so he came back and refreshed my memory on the BR 187 fire spread calcs. It's something that I did at university. I did it when we did our masters. I didn't really understand it because it wasn't taught very well. And then Chris explained it in 20 minutes. And I was like, that makes perfect sense. Why did nobody explain it like that before?
What I'm hearing there, Jude, is Joe's a better teacher than on my masters. And I'm going to put that immediately on the website and probably on some kind of marketing. If Claire is listening, and I trust she is, Claire, get that on a poster. And we'll,
you said that none of your team listen to this podcast. If all of your team listen to our podcast, it would be an extra 10% of people listening to the podcast.
No one in my team listens. They're sick of hearing me all day long. They don't want to listen to me in their own time.
Shout out to the Beast of Bodmin. We know that Ben listens. So
yeah, a couple of them tune in occasionally. I've heard it on in the office and such. So yeah, cool. But no, good bit of teaching. I've been doing a lot of. My life is split between 3 different companies, 3 different worlds. It is engineering consultancy, it is training, and it's research. And at the minute, I'm quite fortunate that I have a relatively clean split between the 3. It fluctuates. Sometimes I have a really busy period where I'm doing loads of engineering. Sometimes I'm only in research, and at the minute I'm doing all 3, and I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, I've been doing all my research in America. I'm back into teaching. I'm now doing some engineering projects this week. So I'm working on some heritage sites. I've got a couple of fire strategies, doing some CFD as well, get my hands dirty.
Gosh.
So yeah, I'm doing all right though. Enjoyed it. And now I'm back to podcasting as well, which is my 4th job. My 4th thing is all this. I did do a webinar in the middle of it as well, actually.
I was going to say that doesn't count all the other bits and pieces that we know that you do, like the Dogs Trust and the RSPCA and the RNLI and the BMW and the telescope and
a lot of acronyms. I collect acronyms, don't I? By the sound of things,
you do, don't you? Look at
I was thinking, what animal is BMW? What animal charity is that?
I heard a rumor about you trying to give away your BMW. So
Oh, mate, I'm pathetic. I'm like Oprah. I'm trying to give a car away. No one wants it. If anyone wants a car, right into the show, you can have it. Honestly, get it off my driveway. It's yours. But honestly, in the office every day, I'm Oprah. You get a free car.
You get a
free
car. You get a car. You get a car.
No one will take
Oh,
it.
dear.
Yeah.
So funny. So going back to the WUI Fire Engineering Summit.
Yes.
Now you sent me a video of walking around the site and then walking around the presentations, and I'm not 100% sure whether that made it onto any of our podcasts.
Oh, yes, I sent you an update, a video
Yeah.
from the conference. Okay. If it
So
didn't, we'll try
I
and put it in
don't
this one.
think it got dropped in. We might try and drop it in at the end of this one.
Yep.
I think, I mean, bless Kirsty for sorting out all the podcasts when you were gallivanting around the world. Thank you so much. She definitely listens to them all. She doesn't have a choice. So yeah, so I was having a look at the presentation information, the list of, I suppose, what do we call it? The summit information, the download about the different tours and about all the different presentations and conferences and talks. So you said that you sat through the best presentation you've ever sat through before.
Which actually was the opening keynote, which was fantastic.
Oh.
And there was a thing that I've never heard of before, right? And it's called the conflagration era. Now, the conflagration era existed about 100 years ago in the United States. And it's when they started to build big major cities. It was a little older than that, 150 years old. I can't remember the exact dates of it.
Yeah, it would be about 150 years old.
Yeah, and they started to get major fires. The big fire of Chicago, which I think was even earlier, 1820s. I can't remember the exact date. Big fires in New York, big fires in Washington, big fires in Los Angeles. And they termed that the conflagration era in the States, which is when major urban fires started to happen and they would spread between multiple buildings. And off the back of that, laboratories and standardization companies started to develop codes and standards, which we'd now recognize as NFPA codes and how they design buildings. And I was watching this talk and it was fantastic and going through it and I was thinking, oh, I've never heard of this. I'm scribbling some notes, conflagration era, and you come through that through standardization and code development. And then the link was made to the current conflagration era we live in right now, which is the wildfire conflagrations. So it's the spread of a wildfire into an urban area and how we now
rather than the other way around.
Exactly, and how we now need further standardization and codes. And it was a call to arms. It was, okay, guys, now we know we've got a problem. It was a good opening speech. It was we're not here to say wildfires are a problem. We're not going to waste 3 days of your time because you all know that. It's why you're here. The point of this summit is let's get on with it, what we're going to do. And it really focused minds for me. I sat there and it was a kind of, I was like, if I had been asked to give the keynote, I wouldn't have nailed it as well as that did. And it was the point of a summit, I think, over a conference is we know we don't have to convince any of you. You've all paid to come here. You've flown halfway around the world because you know there's a problem and we're here to fix it. And I just loved it. It was such a good opener. And then the whole show was some technical talks. I think in the video I kind of did I walk you around the hall? I showed you where the talks were.
The hall. You showed us your presentations. I've just found. I think that opening keynote was by Steve Kerber.
Correct.
From the Fire Safety Research Institute. WUI fires in historical perspective through the lens of forensic analysis and post-incident fire investigation, understanding why WUI fires present a unique and ill-defined challenge.
Yeah, I don't think I actually said the name, did I? It was FSRI and it was Steve Kerber. You're quite right. And it was drawing parallels from the old conflagration era to modern fires, which was the Palisades and the fires. The fire we forget about, and even I, as a wildfire researcher, am guilty of it. Hawaii a couple of years ago. Remember that fire?
Took out everything. Yeah.
Enormous.
Took out the whole island.
I haven't heard anyone talk about that case study, I don't know, since 6 months after it happened. So yeah, it was a fantastic opener.
But that's the same as like what happened around Calgary in northern Canada, where it took out that entire town and took out hotels. That was coming up, must be coming up 2 years ago, because I was chatting to somebody who was supposed to be staying, or who'd stayed there just before it caught fire when I went to Latitude for my 50th. So
yeah,
like but that's the whole thing though, isn't it? We have such a short memory. Well,
yeah, particularly when it's busy and there's loads of them going on, because not long after that we get the Palisades. Whilst at the conference, whilst at the summit, two things happened, right? The first one is there's a huge fire, or was a huge fire, in a place called Spokane, which is over in Washington State. So not Washington DC, where I was. It was 1,000 miles the other way.
The other
In
bit,
Washington
yes.
State. Enormous fire. There were 3 fires concurrently, and
There were firefighters killed at that one, weren't there?
there was a, I
Yes,
think,
I think we talked about it on. Yeah, we talked about it on. But there was one week where we lost firefighters in like 4 different states in the US,
yeah,
and then Greece and Spain, and then firefighters in Australia as well.
yeah, there was a helicopter crash. I know from one of the responders. It was an awful period, but on the first night, you turn up to these things and there's the events. Then they bring the wine out and you sit at a table and you get chatting. Right, we got chatting to a firefighter from Spokane by
No
chance.
way.
So we said, "Oh, how's home? Like, what's going on?" So he was running us through it, right? And
Oh
it
my
was
goodness.
live. He was catching up on his phone. We were all talking about it, and 3 fires happening concurrently in Spokane, all wildland
Wow.
fires. And the distance between fire 1 and fire 2 and 3, or 1 or 3, whatever it was 2 miles, potentially ignited by a burning ember that had travelled 2 miles.
Wow.
Bearing in mind, all my research is about burning embers. We model them over a few hundred meters in a worst case. 2 miles, huge. So that was happening while we were there live. It's the first thing. The second thing, right? Catherine and I lead this research group here, which is about wildfires, and that's a really broad topic. So really, we don't study wildfires. I mean, you can't. It's too big. You have to hone in on something. So what's the thing that we care most about? It is the WUI. It's the wildland urban interface. It's a wildfire that spreads to an urban area. The reason we care about that, the reason we're qualified to do that, is we design buildings for a career. So when a fire spreads to the buildings, we're experts in that already. We've upskilled in wildfires, and now we're experts in the interface. And when you look at a wildfire that's going to spread to an urban area, you're looking at the external walls and the roof system, essentially, and how that's going to spread. And that's why we've done what we've done, right? So we're over there in America, and our whole push is about that wildland urban interface. That's what we spend our lives researching and discussing. And the point of us being in America was, this happens in the States quite regularly. I was in the Palisades 18 months ago, saw it with my own eyes, right? And we were there saying, we're here researching this and talking about it in case, and not just in case, but for when it happens in the UK.
Yeah.
And on day 2 of the conference, sure enough, what happens? It bloody happens here in the UK in Stourbridge. We get 19 homes destroyed on 5 streets whilst we're at a conference telling the world this is going to happen in the UK someday. It happens while we're there. You lot, and this was hilarious to me at the time, but it's such irony. I must be the only person in the UK that didn't get an emergency alert for a wildfire, because I'm dicking about in America talking about it might happen someday, and then everyone starts texting me, "Oh my god, have you seen this emergency alert?" I said, "No, I'm whale watching in Los Angeles at the minute, actually. I'm on a tour." And you lot all get this bloody thing.
We did. It was very amusing. It happened. It happened for everyone, but most people everywhere. Weirdly, I had 2 alerts on my phone. I don't quite know how I did that. It happened. One of my friends was at the cricket, and all of a sudden, 5,000 phones went off around the cricket grounds. It happened live on. I think it happened live on the One Show. It was very comical.
It is, and I have to give myself, and Catherine as well, you take this award for the worst wildfire researchers in Britain, because when it happened, when the thing that we've been predicting for the last couple of years actually happened, we are literally on a whale watching tour in Santa Monica, in wherever we were, I can't remember, Long Beach.
Did you see whales though?
Didn't see a whale. No, didn't even see a single whale.
Josh, our little fire risk assessor, has just come back from 2.5 weeks in Canada with his wife, and they went whale watching just off Vancouver Island. And my goodness me, they had baby whales breaching, they were jumping. There's some of the shots when they were there. It's amazing.
Well,
I've also never seen a whale, because when Sarah and I went whale watching the other year in Canada, we also did not see anything. So
well, that's great for Josh. If you could send me a picture, I'll learn what a whale looks like, because I didn't see a single one. I just sat on a boat for a couple of hours.
In the sun, in a very big red inflatable suit, I'm assuming.
No, we were on a boat tour. We didn't have to float about in the water. Didn't get wet, which was nice.
I don't think that's quite how it works.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're over there talking about, like, our research focus is on the spread from a wildland fire to an urban area, particularly in the UK. Like, that is the reason that we do the international work, and we do work in the States, and we've done all the Palisades, and we're over there doing field work. It is to bring those insights back to the UK. And then the Stourbridge fire was was so tragic, but also
Yeah.
so fascinating, just because all the conditions were right. And
Yeah.
I think I'm right in quoting that 19 homes were destroyed on 5 different streets. That is a
Yeah.
true WUI fire. And
It is. And
yeah,
they've already said the next year's, they're already predicting because of where the oh, that wind that comes across from America.
yeah,
I can't think of what it's called because I'm too tired. But they've already said the next year is going to be as hot as it was
yeah. Well,
this year.
the predictions are, and I must shout out a colleague. I must shout out Renee,
Your
who
stats lady.
yeah, who does our research and has a master's degree now in data analytics and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Is going off, we hope, now to do her PhD
Oh,
in
brilliant.
working with the Met Office, right? And she is sponsored
Oh,
by the Met Office and everything. She's absolutely amazing. Renee only told me about that today. So yeah, massive well done to Renee if you're listening.
in that
Um,
case, I take it. I won't call her a stats lady because that's probably quite offensive. But
that doctor is what you're gonna have to say very soon. You're
doctor
gonna have to be
doctor stats lady.
Doctor Stats.
We
Yeah,
like a good doctor.
no, too right we do. So yeah, well done to you, Renee. Again, I said I'd shout you out on the show. But yes, the work, the interplay between a wildfire research and weather predictions is huge, because what we're looking at this year
The
is
butterfly effect.
the butterfly effect, I suppose we are in actual fact.
Yeah.
But it's never as simple as it's portrayed in the media,
No.
because they're saying, okay, next year's going to be really hot. Well, yeah, okay, we can see that, we know that the oceans are at 2.5 degrees above where they ought to be, and if you have a 0.5 degree increase, you can expect a really hot summer. Okay, but the other thing is, we are going to have, and strap in for this, folks, a miserable and wet autumn winter. It's just going to be one of those autumn winters that are predicted.
Yeah.
Now, what does that do for wildfires? That gives us a massive growing season followed by a period of drought. That is the worst case. So
Yeah.
the reason I'm in Windsor in a couple of weeks' time doing my field work is I'm really interested not only in what's going to happen during next year's wildfire season,
But in the
it,
growth.
it's the warm up to that. It's the growth
Yeah.
that's going to happen in October, September, October, November, December, January. Is it going to die off enough in January to make sure we don't have that fuel load? I mean, no. The wet season can have just as much an impact on the wildfires as the dry season does next year.
Well,
So,
we had some torrential rain last week on Thursday, near where my office is, and basically my garden is green again. Like down south, we have not had the same weather. I can tell you, everything is still very, very dry. But we're predicted. I mean, the weather, the weather between where you are and where my wife is, for the rest of the week is absolutely catastrophic. We've got thunderstorm warnings. We've got torrential flooding warnings, torrential rain warnings, all around, sort of between sort of South Yorkshire and Lancashire. It's going to be the weather's going to be terrible.
bloody hell. It has
Yeah.
shifted, because I think when I flew back, was it last Sunday, week on Sunday, something like that? It was still boiling hot, and then it just suddenly shifted, and it proper, you felt the drop, and then it has been a bit cold and windy and miserable all week, hasn't it?
Well,
Still
no,
not.
because I was in Portsmouth earlier and it was 28 degrees and I was on a construction site and I was far too hot.
Oh,
So
really? Oh, right.
there is very much north-south divide at the moment.
Oh, right.
I
Fair
was
enough.
getting grumpy on a construction site, telling people they built something wrong.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah. Oh no, it sounds like it's been a really. It sounds like it was really, really worthwhile going over. And obviously, I saw that you had your two posters. They talked about it on the poster map, on the summit poster map. So
Oh, yeah.
you had the Bergman Hart Tunnel and your experimental platform for firebrand generation and transport studies, and then your other paper was field-based mapping and characterization of urban and peri-urban vegetation for wildlife mitigation in Los Angeles. What is peri-urban vegetation?
Do you know, it's quite an interesting one, that, and it came up a lot, right? The first paper is a piece of experimental work that we're hoping to develop to be a British standard someday to model wildfire embers. I've done that on the show. If you don't know it, Google it, you'll find it. It's a cool thing that we built. We're actually building the new version of it in just a couple of weeks' time. So there'll be a new one coming out soon. The other paper about urban and peri-urban vegetation, right?
Is this about the different types of flowers that you found when you were wandering around Los Angeles?
Billical 2 years research work,
Simply.
Jude, by all means.
Very simply.
The flowers you find wandering around Los Angeles, yes. If you think about the wildland urban interface, the WUI, is this like theoretical point at which you've got wildland area and then bang, you're in a town. And it's really simple to think, okay, at what point do we cross that WUI? Where's that interface? And if it's a street, it's really easy where you've suddenly got, there's a forest, there's a bunch of houses. That works, right? You've got this clear divide. But Los Angeles is a great case for this, because I think when I was in Los Angeles a few weeks and months ago, I did a show and we were showing out the window. I think I was in a place called Outpost.
You were?
Just off Hollywood, right? And I showed the hillside and I said, look at that though. There isn't a clear divide between where the wildland and the urban is. And we call that peri-urban. It's this kind of bit in between where you get this mixing, where it's not quite clear whether it is urban or rural. You can't define, because in that area, this is where the Sunset Fire happened in January 2025, right? It's right under the Hollywood sign. It's a place called Runyon Canyon where it spreads down. That wildland urban interface, that area, is a hill with 400 houses on. And it isn't quite clear whether it's a town or whether it's urban, because of course over there they build into the hillside, and all the houses are surrounded by these beautiful trees. And like Katy Perry has a house there. We're not talking about a council estate in Preston, where I'm doing work right now, where you've got this very, very clear urban area, and then you've got some rural area out that's clearly defined and delineated. This is like houses built into a hillside, intentionally hidden away.
Hidden away with trees, all that kind of stuff. It's a lovely area to live.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not bad. But like nowadays, because of urbanization, we are increasingly building housing and just general built environment settlement into the rural area. And it's much harder nowadays to define what is rural, what is urban, and it's even more difficult then to define this WUI. So I don't really use the term WUI, to be honest, in my research. So I talk about urban and peri-urban areas and this kind of mixing, which is the real risk area. And I mentioned before, I've just written a piece for the FPA article, which will go out in sometime this year. I don't know quite when it is. And I talked in there about quasi WUI, so something that is a bit WUI but a bit not. And I talked in that article as well about bidirectional. Now, bidirectional meaning it works in both ways. So the risk is
wildland to buildings, buildings to wildland. Yeah.
The risk is not only that a wildfire spreads to an urban area, it's also the risk of, as we're building more and more into rural spaces, there's then a risk of a barbecue in your back garden. Nothing wrong with having a barbecue in your back garden. There's the risk of you having an open fire in your home, but then that spread, or even just turning a lawnmower on your garden. I was talking to some folks at the conference about, they have a requirement over there that you mow your lawn if it goes above a certain height. But you're also not allowed to use a lawnmower on a dry day, because if you hit a piece of gravel and get a spark, you can set off a wildfire. And it's a really difficult thing. So I talk a lot about bidirectional spread in urban and peri-urban spaces. I don't tend to use the term WUI too much, nor do I use the term wildfire. I'm kind of being a bit awkward, I think, in the wildfire research community at the minute with terminology.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting you say that as well, because I think I've been to, over the last 6 months, I've been to at least 3 different construction sites in and around the Surrey / what county? Well, I'm in Surrey now, but Surrey down towards Portsmouth, that kind of A3, M3 corridor, which is very, 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 very wooded, kind of New Foresty.
I was going to say, you're New Forest, aren't you, in that area?
Down there, a bit further south from where we are, but sort of kind of Guildford and going south. And these construction sites where they're building new homes, sometimes flat blocks, sometimes community centres, certainly care homes, they're all in wooded areas. So they've gone in and they've cut an area out, and it's surrounded by trees and it's surrounded by woodland. And so but like perhaps in the US, they might turn around and say, well, you need to have some form of separation. It might be something that we will have to start looking at, some form of separation, to prevent any kind of fire spread between the different urban interfaces.
So here's my proposal, right? Here is my proposal for that. I'm writing a piece at the minute as well. I'm writing a couple of different things for different places, and I'm going to promote them as heavily as I can because I think they're interesting. I have one called Before and After, and it's B4 as in the functional requirement B4, right? Is the joke still funny if I have to explain it?
No, I mean, I absolutely got it straight away, because as soon as you said you were doing something, I was just like, you've got to be doing something about B4, because obviously that's what Chris and I have just been talking about, which is about fire spread from buildings, and how we do the calculations and where your boundary lines are and distances and all that kind of stuff. And as soon as you said that, that's where my mind went as well. So
And
Oh,
because it's me, you know there's going to be a pun title, and it's going to be a dreadful pun. So yeah, before and after is
before
what
and
I'm
after.
writing at the minute, and it's about how if we accept that we are going to have to do something about fires in the landscape spreading bidirectionally to urban areas or urban areas into the landscape, what we would generally categorize as a wildfire. How do we do that? And it's me being inspired from being at a summit, not just a conference. That's like, right, we all know it's a problem. Let's stop talking about the fact it is. Let's get on and solve it, right? And I was trying to think, how would we solve it? So give me a magic pen, and if I write it, it happens. What would I write on that pad of paper, right? And it would have to be something that becomes a requirement on designers and risk assessors, and it end up in the fire safety order and all these kind of things, right? And what I came up with is it fits within B4, external fire spread, protection both from our building in the offensive manner to the building next door, and defensive from the site next door to our
Coming
site.
to you.
So I was reading the functional requirement, B4, and there's B4.1, which talks about roofs, and there's B4.2, which talks about external walls. Might be the other way around, but basically there's two things. One's walls, one's roofs. And I thought, well, we need a third one in there, don't we, folks? We need B4.3, which is protection from a fire impacting the local landscape and the landscape impacting your building as well. And I was in this article, what I'm writing is essentially the way that we may have to legislate wildfire and wildland fires and landscape fires in future is to have a functional requirement and put it on us and say that we have to have consideration of that. Because as you quite rightly say, Jude, what they do in California, for example, in the California code, they have what they call a defensible space. So there's a zone 0, a zone 1, and a zone 2. And within zone 0, which is 5 feet of your property or 4 feet of your property around, you're not allowed anything combustible. You must have hard standings. You must have hard landscaping, etc. Zone 1, you have certain gardening requirements. You can't have certain types of foliage. It has to be cut below a certain level. And zone 2, you have to do something similar. So yeah, I've got this piece that I'm putting together as a bit of an op-ed, really, a bit of a opinion piece to say here's an idea. It's not a proposal as such. I'd change that word, but definitely an opinion that if we had external fire spread functional requirement, we are at a point now where we also need to consider landscape fires, not just building to building fires.
So my question to you then is, when you did your response for the new approved document B, did you bring it up?
I did not bring it up. No. And you look very disappointed with me, quite rightly. I hadn't had the idea at that point.
No,
I had this idea in America.
I kind of realised that you probably hadn't had the idea by the time that it had closed.
Yeah. Well, I was reflecting a lot on the season we've had for wildfires and are still having. I was reflecting on Stourbridge especially, and I was reflecting on the conversations I'd had in America. And again, the work that Catherine and I do is trying to learn from international perspectives so we can benefit the UK, because we live and work here and will always live and work here, we anticipate, and we want to try and bring that to the UK. And I was thinking, how can I take the California defensible space principle, which is the zoning of what you can have around a home, and apply that to the UK? And of course, here we have the functional requirements. That's what fire safety and fire design is underpinned by. And then I started thinking, where does it fit? It's got to be B4. Does it fit in walls or roofs? No, it doesn't. It's got to be a new part. So yeah, I'm going to do something with that. I'm not in a position to write that. I'm not in a position to lobby that. I'm not in a position for that to become a thing. I'm not saying it is going to, but as a thought experiment, I thought, how would I fix it? And that's the one.
It's a really good thought experiment. I'm going to bring it back to another point, which we talked about earlier, which is the problem is we can't even get people to build things properly at the moment.
Well, I mean, let's go in on that, shall we? So what's
I want to tell you one story first, because
yes, please.
we were contacted by a resident of a property who owns a property, and he's doing a conversion in his house. And he said, "Oh, building control have asked us to get a fire engineer to sign off all the stuff that we're doing." And I was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I've got a 2-story house, but there's a room in the loft." And I was like, "Oh, yes." And he said, "So we're basically just making it a bit better, the room in the loft. We're going to put a bedroom, we're going to put a bathroom." And I was like, "So now you have to comply with all the requirements for a loft room, for a conversion. And if you're going to do it to approved document B, you need to do this, this, and this." And he'd said, "Well, I did think about maybe putting water mist on the stairs, but I really like my open plan downstairs all the way through from my dining room and the kitchen, and I really like my open plan this, and I don't really want a box in my stairs." And I was like, "But you can't do the changes if I can't help you with doing. If you want to do it to approved document B, which is kind of what building control said, then this is what you need to do to comply." And he went, well, my next door neighbour did it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, they might have done it before regulations, or they might not have even asked permission. And I turned around and said, I can't help you, but if you want, I can provide you with some names for a fire engineer who might be able to do like a fire engineering solution and provide you with some guidance, stuff like that. I have obviously never heard from him again.
Sure.
But at the moment, we're doing an awful lot of people have built something, people have designed, people have built something. Oh, it needs to be signed off by building control. Can you write a fire strategy to make sure that it complies? Can you draw a drawing to make sure it complies? And we turn up on site and go, you have built this incorrectly.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I will continue on that point, and I'll say at the end a point on insurance, because I've had a word with my broker today, who I know is also your insurance broker, as it happens.
He is. We spend a lot of time talking to each other, me and our insurance broker.
Yeah, busy man.
Well, I get him to whenever I write, if I'm going to write I do a lot of safety occupier reports for people when they've done works and when they've done remedial works on flats.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure that my insurer, both my insurance broker and my insurers at the end, were happy with the wording and the terminology that I use in the document, so it becomes a proper legal document. And I just wanted them to say, yes, you have not said anything we will not insure.
Yeah, which is totally fair. So I've done on your problem, I've had a similar problem, and I've had to get some insurance advice on it today, which I'll tell you about after we've done. But yeah, the kind of seek forgiveness rather than permission comes up a lot in building work, doesn't it? I think, and
so
they phone an engineer, and do you know what, I get some of these, and I think that often they're like, can you just tell me it's okay and write me what they think is like a certificate, not a strategy or a solution? Can you just sign it off for me? And that's because building control are not doing that, and they think that they'll come to us. I mean, we have had it. I mean, I've had it. Got two examples spring to mind, and those in my team that listen probably know the case I'm thinking of, because we moan about them in the office. You get engaged to do a piece of work, it's already been built, you do something and you say, here's your solutions. They go, I'm not doing that, I've already built the thing, you're not getting paid. Start ghosting you never hear from them again, take them through the courts, and they just disappear on you because they're not happy with you doing an engineering piece of work and saying, look, what you've built doesn't quite work. And yeah, they're just trying to seek forgiveness rather than permission, is the phrase that we use a lot in the office.
Especially, I find, and this is no disrespect to anybody who builds mezzanines in factories, but please speak to your fire engineers before you build your mezzanines in a warehouse or a big factory, because potentially you're going to do it wrong.
I've had a couple of them mezzanines going in.
I did a fire risk assessment recently, and we've got people working on a mezzanine that is not a protected mezzanine that they can't be working on. And I even had to, I mean, I sat there in the office with Chris and went, I think they're doing this wrong. So we went down the fire engineering route to say, literally, you're doing this wrong and this is how it needs to be done. But also, yeah, we've got a couple of massive big factories where one of them we're like, you're going to have to put the hose lane distances are so long, which goes to B5. The hose lane distances are so long in this factory because they've just extended and extended and extended. And we're going, you're going to have to put a protected shaft horizontally through your building to protect the fire service, so they can fight the fire in your factory.
That came up in the classroom, I think. Chris asked about this because we were doing hose lay distances. And
it's been on our mind a lot the last, I'd say, 6 months. We've been trying to sort this problem out.
Yeah. To drip feed in a little solution that I think we were talking about it in the classroom, because I was presenting about hose lay distance, and we're doing some calculations for water, the amount of water coverage for different fire sizes and that. And it's a good little session, but the hose lay distance is nothing to do with the length of hose. It's firefighter exertion.
Yeah.
So the 45 meters is not about. It's not a length of hose. It's not two lengths of hose. It's how
about
far
how tired you have to get and how far into a building you are going to be without protection.
Yeah. So looking for solutions, it's about not having to travel 45 meters into a compartment on fire. Can you solve it with compartmentation? You set up your bridgehead location in a safe space, which for me would be 2 hours, because that's the equivalent to having a firefighting shaft.
Yeah.
And yeah, this problem came up in the classroom as a nice little scribbling it on the whiteboard and that, marking it all up, because we've had similar. But then if you have these mega factory, big storage warehouse locations, you can never get within 45 meters. You can't even hit travel distance, let alone firefighting hose lay cover.
But in those places, they put in really, really good sprinkler systems, generally, or really good fire alarm systems, which is something that we are struggling with this particular client.
Are you unsprinkled?
Some of it's unsprinkled and some of it isn't.
Yeah,
It's
tricky, isn't it?
yes.
Well, I've had
They're
that
like, oh
where
no, well, we're going to put sprinklers in. Oh yeah, no, we're going to put a better fire alarm in. Oh yeah, no, we're going to put Vesda in. That's fine. But you've already built all of
yeah,
your stuff.
yeah. The problem I've had with the mez going in is it shields and they don't put the sprinklers under the mez, so you end up with the
Oh,
ground floor being completely shielded because the
yeah.
mezzanine's imperforate.
60-minute resistance, REI.
Yeah, but then they don't rehang sprinklers underneath, so you've got that big
Um,
shielded area, and of course that's the area it's going to attack the mez first. Ugh. Yeah, not got any of
no,
them
I
at the
don't.
minute, thankfully. But
I d- weirdly we've got two, and I basically said as soon as we finish those two, can we go back to we're going to go back to nice care homes and blocks of flats that
well,
are all
yeah,
done to ADB that people don't always build properly. But
yeah. Well, just quickly to finish up that the insurance point I made, right, was we've so you have a level of indemnity for insurance, professional indemnity, and let's pick a nice round number and say it's £1 million. That isn't my real cover, that isn't real cover in fire engineering, but it's a
no.
nice round number, right? Now you might, and again, these are all fabricated numbers, you might be paid for a piece of work £5 to write a fire strategy. If you're charging £5, you're undervaluing yourself, any fire engineer
You are
out there.
absolutely undervaluing yourself, yes.
But let's say you're being paid £5 as a fee, right? And you're offering £1 million indemnity. That means if you make a mistake, you've got to pay out £1 million, or your insurer has to pay out £1 million, and you have been paid £5, right? You might equally be paid £100 for a piece of work, 20 times more fee, and you're still offering £1 million. And the conversation I had with my insurer today was, I've got a couple of jobs at the minute where I'm on very, very low fees in the £5 region. It's a couple of quid more than £5. Don't get me wrong, but it's in the lower end of what we're being paid. But the reason for that is because someone else has come along and buggered up a job and we're fixing it for them. So they don't need a fire strategy. They need a little technical note about one
Yeah.
screw that's going in, one little bloody head detail or a track or just some. So we're not the designer on the whole scheme, right?
No.
So that is a £5 fee for us rather than a £200 fee. So this is a really low end for us. And I said to my broker, I'm uncomfortable with the amount of cover we're providing here for two reasons. One reason, because I'm not being paid very much for this. I'm losing money just in the admin of even having to look at contracts on this job. And secondly, I have a higher risk insurance wise because some other bugger's been in for ages and messed it up and been sacked, and now I'm here fixing it. So I said, can I do something with that? And we're now looking at bringing in this proportionate scaling. We alter the amount of insurance cover we give based on our own fee. So you take your fee and multiply it by 20, and that's the cover you give. You don't always give 5 million. I've said it now. 5 million quid, 10 million quid, whatever it is in terms of
I'm going to
indemnity.
say, in the nicest possible way, anybody who listens to this podcast knows that both of us have £5 million cover, and that if we have to go to £10 million, we charge it per site because we have
Right.
discussed this before.
Oh, good. Well, there we are. Jude's giving the game away as well. Let's say you got 5 million quid to cover. If you give that out to every client universally, I'll have to adjust the numbers now. Let's say you're being paid £1,000 for a job, you're giving out 5 million quid. Let's say you're being paid 25 grand for a job. It's the exact same 5 million. So what I'm looking at doing is trying to reduce my risk on these schemes where someone's made a mistake and you're coming in to mop up a couple of the errors. Because first of all, you're accepting everything that they've done to date before they got sacked. And secondly, your fee's probably lower because the client, quite right, I can accept it from a client. Why do I have to start again? I've got 90% of the work. It's just the 10% that I need you to come and help out. But for me, that's higher insurance risk. So that's what I've been chatting about because I've had the exact same problem you've got, Jude, on a couple of schemes at the minute.
But now this is where we need the insurance boys back because I don't understand. Because I'm like, well, it doesn't matter if we're offering 5 million. If I charge you 300 quid for a report that says, oh, I'm just explaining this technical detail, 300 quid as an example, it won't be that much. It won't be that little, I should say. If it's wrong, they're not going to claim the whole £5 million. They're only going to claim a proportion, aren't they?
Don't know. Whole building loss, total loss because of an error made in your report. Not suggesting there'd ever be an error in your report, but let's say you do a small report and it's about the structure of the building, and then they have a fire and they lose the building, and the building's worth 5 million quid. The level of indemnity you've offered on that advice is £5 million. They could claim that full 5 mil.
Ah.
If that whole building is gone and they've got loss of not the building, but not just the building, but assets and everything to a total of 5 million. Now, if your insurance or our insurance is £5 million in the aggregate, that's a total of up to £5 million claim they can make against the advice you've given. Even if, and this is something that kills me, even if you give the advice for free, because we do some pro bono work here.
Yeah.
You do a piece of pro bono work and make an error, and then they get total loss of the building. The building's worth £4 million. They can claim against that advice you've given, because it's professional advice, up to the full value of the loss.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, I think very much as soon as Carol listens to this podcast, she will absolutely be ringing Stefan, and we will probably be doing something very, very similar to.
Yeah. Well, it's hit me because it's a bit of a double header again. One is my fee on this is so low, and I've been reviewing contracts, and frankly, for the fee we're being paid at my hourly rate, I've lost money already just by the time it's took me to read that contract. Me reading that contract for 40 minutes has already cost the firm more than you pay me for the job. But secondly, because I'm in mopping up someone else's error, I've got a higher risk because I don't know what they've been in meetings for 6 months that I haven't. How do I know they haven't made a bigger mistake that one day I'm going to get a bill? And you know what? There is no worse feeling, I promise you, as a CEO or a managing director or whatever your job title is, than getting a letter. Think, I wonder who this is from, and at the top it's got a solicitor's name. You think, I need to make myself a cup of tea before I open this one, and that's the reality of owning a business, isn't it? But opening up one day and saying there's a claim for X number of millions of pounds against you, and you go, what have we done here, folks? Everyone gather round. We need to have a meeting, don't we, team? And this is the reality of what happens in running a business. So,
but it's also really, really hard when you take a job on. I mean, we had those incidences where we had quite a number of different fire engineering firms that went to liquidation or changed or whatever, people left and whatever. And you pick up projects. If you pick up a project that somebody else has designed at Reba 3 and then you're doing it to Reba 4, do you then have to, as part of your contract, put in a mitigation that says this is a design that I mean, we always turn around and say this is a design that was designed by somebody else. This is not our original design.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? First work package I always do in that case is what we call a design review. So a design review is just I'll mark up a set of plans and tell you what I do and don't agree with. The stuff I don't agree with, really, what I'm saying is for me to mobilise to this scheme, I need this to change and be in line because I'm not going to take ownership of someone else's work, not just out of stubbornness, but out of they might have different. Do you know what? In fairness, like to be really clear on it, I might just disagree with them fundamentally. Or in truth, they might be more skilled than me. They might be better. They might have a greater comfort in a solution that they were able to justify that I in-house am physically not able to to justify and put my name on. So somebody comes along with a load of really complex CFD and structural modeling and all this and finite element that we're just not experts in. I'm not going to be able to put my name on that because I don't understand it.
No.
So yeah, we always do this design review and say that we can't take ownership because it's beyond our capability, beyond our competence, beyond our comfort, whatever words we need to use.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah. It's difficult when jobs change hands between, during the course of a project. I do feel for clients when they have to sack someone or someone walks off a job or they go, you've mentioned liquidation now. I mean, how many companies are going into liquidation at the minute? I see it every single day.
M&E companies seem to be going all over the place. Groundworking companies. The site I was at this afternoon in Portsmouth, their ground worker. The last time I was here a month ago, and their ground worker had just gone bust, and he was there having all the machines being taken away. And you sit there and you go, that's if you're on a massive construction site for a tier 1 contractor and you lose your ground worker, that's big.
But then tier 1's going down as well. It is a difficult for anyone who's not in this world. It is a difficult time for a business owner right now, just because of macro factors. That is factors impacting the whole industry. It's difficult world out there at the minute.
Yeah, we're all right though, aren't we?
Yeah, we'll be all right. Got a little podcast on the go.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Thanks, Joe, for coming back. Lol. your annual summer holiday that you've done every year so far.
You can take the man out of academia, but you can't take academia out of the man. You need a lot.
I know. It's just like he's going on his summer holidays again. I'm just going to have to find other people to talk to. We managed to make it work because we are amazing. So no, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you everybody for watching. We will be back next week as ever.
We will. Looking forward to it.
Chained Joe back to the podcast now. So
I'm back, baby. I'm back.
We're gonna do some technical stuff next week because I've got some questions which I've been but which have been hanging around, which people have asked me, and so I want to discuss the next time we're on. Now we've got all caught up again. So
Excellent. And I have had a question from Michael, and I'm going to do it next week about flooring systems and how they interface with doors. So I promise you that's happening next week. Write that one down. We'll get it in
Yeah,
there.
carpet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, carpets and flooring systems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've had some good chats about that. I can tell the story about a particular stadium that they'd filled AstroTurf across the whole of the ground floor of the inside, underneath all the fire doors, and they still said the compartmentation was fine.
Hey, and let me set it up because I've got a story about that as well. AstroTurf in a football stadium from when you may remember, Jude, a couple of years ago, I very nearly bought a football club,
You
and I'll tell
very
that story next week.
football.
in a random act of thing.
This week's purchase, I've bought a football club. I
Nearly bought
mean,
a League Two football club.
we sponsor a ladies rugby team.
Do you? Are you on
Yeah,
the shirts and that? Have you got the logo on?
no. We donate money for their team and for their ground. And we're
Oh,
looking to
nice.
donate money to a ladies football team as well. So
Nice. I
because
like that.
support grassroots sport, especially for women.
Absolutely, 100%. We should do a not all fire. Oh, let's do that off air. Okay.
No,
Thank you, Jude. It's good to be back. Thank you, listeners and watchers.
thank you, Joe. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
See you next Tuesday.